Welcome, beach-loving business owners, to this episode of Barrels and Business, where it is my job to bring you some of the best entrepreneurs and business owners around the world that absolutely love to get wet. In the next hour or so, depending on whether you can keep me out, because you can't see at the moment, but the reef's breaking out the front of my house and I'm kind of jonesing to get out there. But in this next hour or so, what we're going to do is bring you some really tangible tips on how you can grow and scale your business, like actual actionable things, some lessons that this man, Brent Valle, has learned from building multiple businesses and selling them to the tune of $27 million.
I wish it was 27 million, but
what's that? Who gave me that stat?
don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. I think it's pretty appropriate right now, don't you think, Jade? But
yeah, we should have some beers with this as well.
I reckon that'd be good.
Well, I got big heads in the fridge. What do you got?
I'm pretty empty here. I got coconut water.
Oh, boring.
I know.
Okay, well, we'll have to. Let's stick to building businesses, and more importantly, building businesses that are aligned with who you really are as a human, and being a little bit more conscious about what we do and getting more aligned to what makes our souls truly happy. So, Brent, tell us, where do we start? Do we start with you selling a really successful tech business and getting more alignment, or do we start with that epic facility that you're sitting in right now?
Thanks, Jade. I'm not sure where the beginning is, but I do know that I am sitting in a pretty cool place right now. You know, I had this vision maybe about 12 months ago to create a space, a place that I could work from, have other people come and work from, and inspire other business owners and also teenagers to come, have a good place, have a good time, be inspired, be educated, and walk out of here ready to tackle the world. So it's a cool place. We're in progress. We're 3 months in. We've been working a lot on actually getting it ready. So yeah, it's a pretty cool place. I call it the Dream Factory. It's my dream, but it's going to become a handful of other people's dream as well. So it's a pretty cool space.
Is this based off of Rob Dyrdek's Dream Factory?
Well, it's funny you say that, right? So when I shared the idea that I had with somebody, they said, it sounds just like Rob Dyrdek. And then I looked him up. So actually, you know, when my passion for skateboarding was through the 80s and 90s and then kind of went away from it, right? So I didn't actually realize who it was, but then I looked it up and then I saw that entrepreneur, epic skater, and I was kind of like, yeah, that's it. He's done it. So modeling a little bit of that. So because, and part of the reason is I think if you've got business or you're starting out in business, you need to have a home, you need to have a place and a space that inspires, you can create from, and you can also execute the things that you need to execute to be successful. So just like your van, hey?
Just like the van. Yeah, the van.
Yeah.
You're like, spoke to me about that funny van. The van's going to be done. It's nearly done. It is getting epic. I should have been out in it today. We're not quite there. But did you say you're putting a ramp in?
There's a ramp going in. So my ramp builder is in Tasmania at the moment. You can follow him on Instagram, Ramp Wizard, but he's coming over to build a ramp in here. So I'm pretty psyched about that. But he's over in Tasmania building a park. And then once he's finished, he can get into Victoria. His wife's got to come over and see her mum, and he's going to come and build a ramp. So that'll be pretty cool. So
tell me it's going to be a surf skate ramp. Have you been on one of the surf skate ramps?
Well, I'm not sure. Maybe. I went to the ranch 2 years ago. Kelly Slater's wave pool over in the US, and there was beside it, there's a bowl, and I think it's one of those things. I stood on the skating, and it's completely different to a normal skating. And it's super fun, but you surf around the bowl instead of skating. But no, not one of them's not going in. Just a normal like mini ramp. It might be 3 foot high with a 4 foot extension. A spot for the kids to be able to roll in, like for the grummies who haven't skated before. So yeah, super stoked, super psyched. It's gonna be unreal.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I'm keen to get back on the ramp. So I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago with the dudes from Little Frothers, and he's got a ramp that the Smooth Star guys built and put in. But usually in the mornings here, a guy named Clayton, who sponsors a lot of surfers and does a lot of surf training, Rabbit Bartholomew and his kids are out there. He has a ramp just around the corner from me, and he's had me on it a few times on the Carver. And I can't tell you the difference it made in my surfing just from that one lesson. Just realizing that I was trying to ride a shortboard like I used to ride my longboard, like so used to a big, deep drop knee turn. And he's like, does your board just fly out from underneath you? Because obviously this thing doesn't weigh much, or definitely doesn't need a big deep bottom drop knee turn. Yeah. Skates out from everywhere. So yeah, I reckon you need to get some of the surf skates in there if you're going to have
now you got me thinking. Now you got like, because I've always got these ideas about I'll do this and do that, and you got lots of different ideas. Not that I need any more ideas or projects at the moment, because there's a lot going on.
No,
but it's good to finally arrive at this place, because I think, 3 years ago when I ended up selling Engage Technology Group, I was really on a journey, you could say, of self-discovery, turning 41, going through, experiencing what some people would consider success, depending on how you measure that, having sold a business that we started 5 years earlier with $2,000 each to be turning over $27 million in our 5th financial year is quite significant. And then to go, you know what, I need to go and do something else is like massive change. And I think, a lot of people go through a shift in their 40s and think about life from a different perspective, and people have ideas to start a new business or to have a side hustle and try and grow it. So, I think it's an interesting time. And yeah, that was a journey. It started back then. I was just about, I want to do things and I want to create businesses around my passion, my purpose. And, so many people talk about purpose these days, and you sit back and go, well, what does that actually mean? And, I kind of did some work on myself over the years. I've been a never ending, continuous piece of work in my entire life. And I'm glad for some of the challenges that have come up to lead me to the point where I'm at today. But the things that I focus on are out trying to connect with purpose. And if you might be a business owner, really, like 3 things. What are your values and beliefs? Like, who are you as a person? What are your values and beliefs? What's important to you? What are your beliefs? Like, are they empowering beliefs? Are they disempowering beliefs? And I started this exercise, right? And I sat down with myself and I was like, okay, how am I going to get really clear with what I stand for, what I'm about? And I went into a room and I sat down with some really inspiring music and sat down and just started writing. And it was like writing all this stuff down, my values and beliefs, my talents, abilities and gifts. Like, what talents do I have that no one else in the world's got? Or what abilities do I have? What special gifts that I have? And I just started writing. And I looked into my personality and characteristics and wrote all those down. And I sat there and I was kind of like looking at this bit of paper with all these words on it. And these words had so much meaning to me, yet I looked at the life that I was living at the time and I was kind of like, well, you're kind of not there. Like, you're here, but you believe you're that. And so it became a great starting point for me to, go deeper. And so I was fortunate enough to, explore and travel and adventure around the world and do some cool stuff, jumping out of helicopters with my mate, Chris McDougall over in Switzerland. Well, not with him, but with one of his friends. And I don't know, I just pushed myself to places of being uncomfortable that I'd never been before. And it was really, really enlightening and quite a transformative process and experience, especially on top of that was going through, the end of a long-term relationship. So, put into perspective, single dad, starting businesses, finishing off a relationship, only long-term relationship. So, getting really clear around myself as an individual. And I speak so much about purpose and people doing what they're passionate about. And I think it's a great place to start if you're about to go and embark on a journey of growing a business, because it's very easy, I think, with all the noise and the conditioning and the advice from different people, to actually lose yourself in the process. And if, you got to ask yourself, what are you actually doing it for? At the end of it, all you're doing is losing yourself. So yeah, I like to, if I was to narrow down a bunch of stuff into a piece of advice, Jade, that'd be something I think is pretty important as you start out on your business journey.
Well, what I'm doing right now is making notes as we go along for things to come back to and times in the podcast for everyone.
Yeah, cool.
What I want to touch on, right, what you just said then, is what are your top tips for not losing yourself? Because everything you've talked about it's almost a mirror image of my own life. Yeah. And as you mentioned earlier, we met on social media a few years ago, and it's probably because we were going through similar things at similar times. Like, I got there a little bit earlier than you. 38 years old, I was like, what the fuck? Build a business, had the best investors in town, going through all the stuff, then catalyst of events to ending a 13-year relationship and realizing that ego had been driving, and my soul-sucking search for significance was in the driver's seat for what I was doing and how I was behaving. And I'd taken on all the programming from the culture skate of what success should look like. Sure. And I started to do the same stuff. Values and beliefs, stand for, stand against. Like, all of those things you said is like, right, it's what I preach and teach now.
Right.
But tell me, tell me, what was there something, like I've got a few books that started my process that like, then it was like drop, drop, drop. What was it that started your process, and how can you help somebody else? Like, what's a tool, a tip, or advice you could give someone else on how not to lose themselves to either the culturescape or building a business based on ego or out of alignment?
The best way for me to answer that, Jade, would be to go back to 2016. I went on a trip over to New Zealand with my family at the time, my ex-wife and my 2 kids. We had a great time, and we're riding around the Remarkables, and I remember it vividly. I went up to try and do a trick, a 50-50, which I kind of never done before, but I thought, oh yeah, I'll give it a crack. Anyway, I ended up coming off the end and like slamming my head down. Actually, it was a 360. It was a 360, and I came down with a rail running this way across the mountain, and I ended up slamming my head, having concussion, and being unconscious for just a few seconds, and then came to, and then ended up being at the hospital, sitting around for like 4 hours. And I remember in the days after that, I realized to myself that I wasn't, as a bloke growing up in the 20s and 30s and 40s, I've always thought that I was pretty indestructible. And I think it was the fact that I realized that, hey, you know what, there's going to be a time in my life that, it's going to be the end of time. And for me, and that might come in like 5 days, 5 years, 50 years, I hope, like when I'm in my 90s, right? But that time's coming. And so it was a massive thing for me to realize that, and it was just really confronting. And I think it happened at like an unconscious level, and I can't really put anything down specifically that made me, other than that made me think, hey, you know what, one day you're going to die, and you're not indestructible like you've always believed. And that was a massive decision. And at the same time, looking at the success we had, and help what we're experiencing at the time, and the emotions and the feelings of that. By the end of our 5th year, we were under a lot of pressure, and for a business that was succeeding and growing really, really quickly, that feeling of pressure and being trapped, and then other stuff going on at home, I think it was enough for me to realize, just to be so in touch with myself after, maybe not, like just some of those senses coming to life. I think I just started listening more and more to those senses, and valued those more than an outcome or a result. And so I started consciously listening to my unconscious and also my heart more, and following that, and then leveraging all my skills and beliefs and abilities and all that type of stuff behind my heart to create and manifest businesses. So that's the only way I can dialect it at this point of time.
Awesome.
Really.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I know you're a constant learner as well. What things help you in this? Is there any books, podcasts, workshops, or anything that has helped you along this journey to be able to tap in and, know to sit down and say, journal on your values and beliefs? Or where did that come from?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I think, there's so much information out there from so many different people all of the time. And, like for me, it was actually quietening my mind and getting less information. What I will pay a tribute to is the counselling and the counsellor, a guy by the name of Bill Van Shee, incredible guy, faith-based counsellor. And I worked with him on my personal life for a number of times. And also it started actually transitioning across to leadership. And it was really fascinating. I learned some amazing things through him. So through Bill, he shared those simple steps with me. So that was probably, those simple steps have made a massive, profound difference in the initial points, but then from there growing out of it. So I don't know, I just kind of follow what the trends are and what's kind of happening, and kind of observe from afar. And I've got good mentors in my life, and I think the direct relationship with somebody has not lost its way, but I think more people, if you're starting a business or an entrepreneur, you should be investing in somebody who's been there, done that. I think it's great to get information, and there's a lot of good information out there, but work with somebody who's doing, I think it's important to work with somebody who's doing what you're trying to do. So yeah.
Great.
I like the fact you're typing notes. I wish I had somebody typing notes.
I know. What I should have done is organize Kay to be just watching live and doing it as we go. But this helps me to pull back. So with that, we hear all the time, like you should get mentors and also coaches. Like if you want to improve in anything, getting a coach is what's going to do it. But I probably fell into this trap when I was younger. I never really had proper mentors, so I never knew how to go and get them, and I kind of had to figure it out, and I didn't have any necessarily any influences in my life, family wise, or friends to seek out the business advice from.
Yeah.
And then I gathered a couple later on, and I took them more out of ego because they offered rather than being conscious about it. Can you give any tips about how you find the right mentors, how you seek them out, or just anything around selecting? Because I do believe you're some of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and you've got to be really considerate of your input, because like you said, there's so much noise and the agenda associated with it. So can you give any advice around that?
I can try to share from experience. So my first mentor would have to be my first boss, quite an incredible guy. And it's funny, you know, like he didn't just teach me about business. I had a pretty good childhood. And then at the age of 15, mum and dad divorced. And from that point in my life, I was really looking for a male in my life to look up to. And it's funny how I found a role model or a mentor in my first boss in IT, and he started a surf business called Barlin and created Barlin leg ropes way back in the day.
Oh, wow. I know that.
And Clean Ocean Foundation, he started that. And so he was my first mentor, and I met him through just life. And the thing is, what I saw in him was a lot like I aspired to be what he was like. So that was how I found him. So there's somebody who you aspire to live your life like. So he was surfing all the time. He was working flexibly. Yeah. He was traveling all the time. So I looked at it, I gravitated to that. Then my second mentor was one of the managers I had who was over in the US. And I had a tech business at this point. He was mentoring me. He had a background leading teams at IBM. So I had a strong corporate background. And he gave great advice, but he gave me great advice in situations that I was in. It was kind of like, what do I do here? I'm stuck here. And then I'd go to him, and then he'd give me advice for a specific situation that I might be in. Where Pete, on the other hand, was more about the way of life he was living and how he'd go about life to create the outcome. So that would be, an example of how another type of way you can get a mentor, and for different reasons. Then there's been the counsellors who I've actively seeked out when I've actually had a problem. So relationship challenges, which I think if anyone's in a relationship, most people have relationship challenges, because I don't know any relationships that are without them, because challenges are across everything. So, but I actively looked him out, and I actually asked other people, who do you recommend would be great to support me through this challenge I've got, type of thing. And so somebody referred that person. And this was for my, we think about referrals and that type of thing in a business setting, but I got a referral for personal stuff. So I met Bill that way. So, and then Brent Davis, who's an incredible guy in the surfing community, done some amazing things with Christian Surfers International, and started that out of his house in Cronulla. I spent time with him once a year over on the North Shore, he mentors me unofficially, but just through conversation and asking questions about things that are going on in life or challenges I might have. And he gave me some really good advice, some really, really good advice about mentorship, probably the best I've heard. And I've never heard anyone else speak of it before. He said, if you're going through life, you'd be really well placed if you've got somebody, 10 to 15 years ahead of you who can provide you with guidance and advice, so somebody in front of you. He also said, if you can go through life with somebody walking beside you around the same age, you'll be really, really well placed around all the challenges in life. And if you've also got somebody who's following you and you're a mentor to them, like 10 years maybe down the track, he said you'll be really well placed to navigate your challenges through life, and also be in a position to help other people. And, when I heard that, it really, really, really resonated, because I've never heard anybody say that. And there's a lot of people talking about mentorship and training and all that type of stuff. But when he said that, I was like, wow, it was quite profound. It had a significant impact. I've actually got, every time I speak of his knowledge, it's quite incredible. So he's an incredible man.
I love those. I've never heard that either. And it makes perfect sense to me. And it probably does relate to advice that you get given for life in general, isn't it? Like having someone to follow, someone to walk beside, and someone to lead. And then you can switch into those roles as well, in terms of the seeker, the partner, and the leader. Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? Like I love that. And even with I'm a father of 2 kids, and I've got my kids' photos up where I work. And then I've also got a photo of myself when I was younger at the same age next to them, just to remind remember what you're like at this age. Do you know what I mean? Because as a father, we want to lead and mentor and encourage, and at times push, but at times we've got to sort of sit back. So I think the same in mentoring in business, or seeking a mentor. So I hope some of those stories or experiences that I've had can get you thinking about different ways or different types and ways you can find mentors, and also, carefully maybe consider some people around you in your community who you can approach and have a conversation. Most people, when they get asked to be a mentor, will say yes. So, yeah.
Beautiful. And for you, what's the difference between a mentor and a coach?
I've got a diploma in coaching. I don't know. I couldn't tell you the difference between a coach and a mentor. I couldn't tell you. I don't know. You tell me. What is the difference between a mentor and a coach?
Well, this is, again, it's very subjective. But a lot of people that I come across, the difference they see is a mentor is, or a mentee is someone that's not paid, and a coach is someone you have on hire.
Okay.
So there's an engagement, and there's sort of a set of outcomes, and there's some and more that you would go for the specific things and the detail that you're looking with, whereas a mentor is more of there's more that personal connection. It's less defined, and it is more that not reactive, but I'm not sure if the right word's available either.
Maybe more unofficial,
unofficial?
More a bit more personal. Yeah.
It has that little bit more personal side of things. Sometimes they have some skin in the game, or like it's could be even working towards a passion project. Like it may not be like there's a direct connection, but there's that other level, and the energy exchange is not just monetary.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. It's I've mentored, coached, whatever you want to call it, a number of different people around business. And the conversations always lead to personal, because it's the beliefs and everything else, the values underpinning everything from their childhood, and working with all that type of stuff that's, can be holding the person back on the surface. So, but nothing defined per se around the arrangement as you're like, although, I like the way language that it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then I think with a mentor, they usually, it's not really a defined time frame either, where you can go for a coach that's going to get you through a specific stage of business or a particular thing. Like if you're playing sport, like for your sprinting, like when I played football, I had a sprint coach, a weight coach, I had an offense coach, a defense coach, a touch football coach. Everyone had their specialty. Whereas a mentor might be that longer, less defined.
Yeah, because I get a lot of people who I'm in mentorship relationship with, and it's not defined and structured. But they can call or send me a direct message, and I'll always be available to help and listen. A lot of people just need somebody who knows how to listen well. Yes.
Hold space, listen, so that you can feel heard and actually feel safe to get the words out, the venting sometimes, or the processing. When you're processing a business idea, you just need somebody else to roll it through.
Yeah. Why didn't somebody tell me that? Why didn't somebody mentor me when I was younger around to do that in a relationship? That would have been really very good advice.
Wouldn't it?
Like, what do we teach at school? Come on.
I know. Let's touch that for a second. Okay. What would be your number one relationship tip?
Gee, this is how can somebody? So I'll answer it this way. When I got separated and then divorced, there's this kind of like, it's not catchable being a divorcee. People will approach you and think and talk to you differently. They treat you differently. It's like you've got coronavirus. I'm not joking. I'm not joking. People like all of a sudden look down on you. People you might have known for a long period of time. And you call friend. I'm like, wow. One piece of relationship advice would be just be honest and truthful. And that's, like one thing, I reckon you can just do that. I reckon that's the most important thing.
Yeah. I think that lesson for life. But what do you think stops people from being open and truthful? Where do you think that stems from?
Well, I can only talk through my own experiences, and I think, not taking 100% responsibility for everything in my life, during relationships, I think you get to invest in the relationship and you withdraw on the relationship. And I think sometimes you consciously do both, and then sometimes you unconsciously do both, right? And I think there's got to be a level of, creating a space where the other person can be listened to, they feel safe, they feel valued, they feel like you really love and care about them. And, like the stuff that we don't get taught in school and we've got to kind of make our own way about is, probably some of the stuff that I reckon is really, really important. Just creating that space and being able to talk things through. I think not everything has to be solved then and there. And sometimes things need to probably ebb and flow a little bit to find a nice common ground to settle things at. And I don't know, just try to put yourself in the other person's shoes a little bit more is probably the things that I've learned the most through my experience. But I mean, there's so many different contexts, and from a business perspective, I'd probably say, the following thing. I'll probably give these pieces of advice. It'd be kind of like, you've got to manage your own energy. So you've got enough energy when you are with social or with your partner, that you've got enough energy for them. And so often we can put all of our eggs in the one basket, whether it be starting a business, and put all our eggs in that basket, thinking that's, especially as a man, as society will have us as a quote unquote a provider, the pressures of providing, raising kids, being a good partner, being a loving husband. At times, if you're putting everything into business, you can be left pretty flat at the end of a week and not have anything left. And I know in the dynamics of my relationship that I was in, it was very much, I could go like 100 miles an hour, which is the only way I know. Well, I've learned through lockdown to not go at 100 miles an hour. I've kind of been forced to, but go 100 miles an hour during the week, get to Friday, and I'd be dead and on my feet and just want to recharge. And then the mother of my kids, she's like ready to go out. She's been home with the kids and she's ready out to go and recharge socially. So it's kind of like,
Yeah, my ex-husband used to say, it's not fair, I get the cardboard version of Jade.
Right. Yeah.
And I'd be so offended. He's like, everyone else gets the sparkle and the glamour and the go, 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 go. And for a big chunk of our relationship, I'd had a car accident, actually going to meet with Billabong. So I was on my way to meet Billabong. It was like a really big deal for me. And the taxi smacked into another taxi doing 60, and then we got smacked into again without braking, and it really screwed my neck up. And I was able to get through the day. I just pound my way through a day. 12 hours, 13 hours, and then I'd come home and I would have eaten 8 to 10 Panadeine Forts just to get through. And then it was just like vague city, all the goodness got used up. Or a weekend, or any opportunity that you have. You ever found this? Like a lot of people get sick when they go on holidays, or super healthy people retire and then they die.
When they relax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the longer you perpetuate that cycle, the worse the illness or the crash is. So I was just like, I could slam my way through a week, and then it was just like,
it's actually really sad. It's actually really sad. Like, I reckon it's sad because people aren't aware, and there's good people doing good things, trying to, make their way. And I remember certain scenarios in my life in different stages, I was back against the wall, providing for family, providing for kids, and you're going out there to try to do your best, and I think anybody who has their own business, you're stepping out in a plank, and you're out there on your own. There's nowhere to run, there's nowhere to hide, there's no one else who's going to take responsibility for your stuff unless you make it happen, right? Yeah. So it's kind of sad that, I guess there's more encouragement and conditioning and programming for society and everyone else to go hustle, 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 hustle.
Oh yeah, I ate Gary Vee for breakfast every friggin' day back then. 5 a.m. club, Gary. Grind, wore the sleep deprivation was a badge of honor amongst our circle of entrepreneurs. Kissing contest over who could sleep the least and just grind the most. Not conducive to.
And that's important though. It's about having a level of self-awareness to be able to understand yourself. And that's why I come back to the the values and beliefs, the personality and characteristics, the talents, abilities and gifts, because you've got that as you, and then you've got your business life, and you know, like you jump into your business world and you go and execute and you do what you do there, and then it's like, okay, the same application that goes into my business life, you know what, it's time to switch gears and change that. I need to apply that into my personal life as well, and switching that switch ain't so easy, and that's where surfing and getting away and adventuring and traveling and different things have really helped me. But you know what, the one thing's really helped me, Jade, and it's I've learned it through the last 6 months of being down here in Melbourne and being quite restricted, you could say, in my movements, is I started another tech company back in April the 1st, and you know, building that from scratch, going into I'm not even going to use the words. I could say fake pandemic, falsified pandemic. Coronavirus is real, very real for sure. But so going into this period, this 6-month period, I just was like, you know what? I'm going to try and grow a business in these restricted periods in a shit economy, and do it from a place of compassion, understanding, empathy, not trying to go too fast. And in the last 6 months, if I look back to the other tech company I started, I've done more in the last 6 months in terms of if you use gross revenue as an indicator for success. I've done more in the last 6 months than I did in the first 6 months of that other tech company in a normal world, you know. And I look back and I think about some of the times I've had, you know, deadlines to get campaigns out, like marketing campaigns out, EDMs, working with vendors and that type of stuff. And at times where things haven't gone as fast or as the fashion that I would have liked. In the past, I would have like got on the front foot, been quite not aggressive, but forceful to get things done. And this time I've taken the approach of, okay, there's a person behind the reason this hasn't got done. And I know right now that people in Melbourne are going through some really challenging times. So rather than try to force an outcome, I'm going to focus on serving and supporting them personally. And that's been the approach. And that it's amazing what I've learned is the fact that I don't need to do that strategy anymore of being forceful, and can grow a business and still be successful and still grow up fast and still do it, but in a much more conscious way, not only to those around me, but also to myself. And I've learned a lot about patience. And if you show up every day, you don't need to go at 100 miles an hour. Just keep showing up every day, and, you know, look after yourself through the process, and the results will manifest as well. So I've learned a lot. It's been really cool, actually.
That's super cool. Tell me though, what's some of the tips and tools that you use to be able to do that? So there's often a lot of fear, like sometimes, interesting, judgment upon yourself of when you're not grinding and not pushing at the 100% if you're not where you're already at. How do you learn to trust the process? And
awesome question. Somebody just walked past. Oh, you're right on the beach. That's cool.
Oh yeah. We've got some surfers coming up there. Yep.
So I had to learn through doing to be totally truthful, Jade. You know, at the moment, I just through working so hard over the first 3 months to get things off the ground, it was kind of like far out. I can't sustainably keep doing this at this rate. And it was kind of like, okay, next Thursday, I'm going to not work at all. Well, it was just like, I'm just not going to work at all. It's kind of like, I was like, holy shit, imagine that. Then I'll think about, okay, what about if any quote requests come through from prospects or clients? And I think about the emails I've got to respond to. Then I think about the team if they email me and need some support or some guidance. And it was like, yeah, it doesn't matter. And so I literally had to go a day and not actually respond and not actually do anything. And it's funny, I put everything down, and I was trying to force a few other things that I'm working on at the moment as well in terms of projects I'm working on. I was going, you know what? I'm kind of sick of trying to force things, and I'm just going to let it be, and I'll just see what happens. And so, you know, so I did that. And then it wasn't long after that, like about 3 days later, a purchase order came in. Now, it was off the back of the work I'd done, admittedly, but I also believe that it was creating space just for the world to play out. You know, we're all connected. Sounds a bit tree huggerish, hippie-ish, whatever, but we're all connected. Everything's energy. And it's okay just to sit back and, you know, the world's not going to, well, the world didn't come crumbling down. Well, it hasn't yet in Melbourne, but it was just a good reference point for me to be like, you know what, You don't have to go like a cat every single day. And again, my friend Brett, he said some very, very good words to me when over in Hawaii in January, and it was sick. An epic swell came through, but he said to me, we know that you can burn brightly. We know that you can burn brightly. What's most important this time is for you to burn for a long period of time. And yeah, he's a wise man. It's you know, so when you have people in your life speaking these little truths in little metaphors, I hear his voice when I'm going so hard. So being able to let go, not respond to something so quickly, to not have to think about getting up to create content for social media, for LinkedIn, and knowing that business can still happen, knowing that if the quote doesn't go out today or within a 2-hour response time and it goes out within a 4-hour response time, it will still be okay. So just to lessen the standards, I guess, that I like to hold myself to. And I found by doing that, it makes it easier for myself, but others around me too, which is pretty cool.
Well, I think one of the things that I found with running the 3 businesses I ran before this was actually, in my ex-husband's wisdom, he kept telling me that I run so much faster than everyone else, and then they'll all die. And you're holding people to the same, like especially team members, trying to hold team members to the same energy level and standard as you, only sets yourself up for disappointment and also sets them up for unhappiness. And when you think about the different types of person you need within your business and the way they operate, often the business owner, the visionary is I don't know if you've done the wealth dynamic stuff, Roger James Hamilton's profiling, but it's what I work with within performance and flow consulting. So often the visionaries are like a creator, dynamo energy, or a star, and they're used to being upfront, they're used to being high energy, they're used to be big picture, they're used to running really, really fast, and they're pretty okay to take risks and stuff like that. But if we had a whole company full of those people, no shit would get done, and it certainly wouldn't get done very well.
What a mess. There'd be a mess everywhere.
But if you think about, like, if you have a dynamo energy who's like head in the clouds, big picture, not really detail orientated, like just boom all the time. Yeah. They need someone who's grounded and has got the timing and the detail and, the calming in their opposite. So if you try and flog them like you flog yourself, or just how you run yourself, they're not going to be able to keep up. They're not going to do the job the same, and they're not going to be happy. And it's like, okay, well, understanding what actually, we're not all the same. We're, like, how we get into flow is not how necessarily our team gets into flow, and figuring out, when do you have to give time and space? Like, I've got an amazing friend who's a project manager, and she is that tempo energy. And the best thing to do if you want great work from her is to actually just allow her to take some time off. She has to stop. She needs to introvert. She needs to think, and she needs the space to see the dots. Whereas if she just keeps grinding, she can get work done, but she could have got you a result that was 10 times better.
Yeah. Wow.
Do you know what I mean? Like, she could maybe tick the boxes and get it done, but if you actually allow her to be her genius, what you would get in response is 10 times better. And I think that's a really hard trait as a business owner, to recognize that, especially those people. I keep pointing to the top of our problem, because they can be seen as quite egotistical, because it's like their idea and their vision, and they don't understand why other people don't get it. And
you described me pretty well, like, in terms of that type of person. But like, like you asked me, it said to me, like, I'm 44 in a few weeks, but as a 35-year-old, I had very much had that ego driving, and now, like, 9 years on from there, it's different. It's a level of awareness now, which I think is really profound. And I think so far, because I'm always learning, but so far, it's knowing when to apply your skills, your talents, your abilities and gifts, and knowing when to pull back. And you can't always be going, sometimes slow is fast. Like, most of the time, slow is fast. Because, and even for myself, I can go and flog myself. When I say that, go through the repetition and the discipline, if it's punching out sales calls, meeting heaps of people, I can do that. can do that very, very easily. I want to get into my consciousness and create and inspire and have ideas manifest out of myself that are going to provide more value for that group that I'm serving. Then I need to create the space in my life for that. If it's the showing up every day to turn the wheel on the machine to get the output at the end, that machine doesn't allow for a lot of creativeness, consciousness, intuitiveness, spirit, and energy to come out. You know, it's
you don't allow the space for the universe to give you the downloads.
Yeah. Oh, sick.
An idea through to fruition to get the actual input. For some reason, while we were talking through that, one of Roger James Hamilton, who I do some work with in Bali, he says you've got to slow down to speed up. But I was reminded of, have you been to Sandown? Like, obviously you're in Melbourne. Have you been to?
Yeah, I've been to Sandown. Yeah, I've had a horse race there. I've ridden my bike around that track. I've been to the V8 supercar there. It's not far down the road, actually.
Well, when I I bought my Lotus when I lived in Melbourne, and so I took it to the track and had the Lotus Cup guys and some of the supercar guys give instruction, and that bottom hairpin, like you've come through the chicane, like come up the turn one, and you're about to come through, ready to hit that back straight. If you try to come through that chicane at the same speed, there is no way you're going to clock like your 250 Ks to 90 Ks on the back straight. So you got to slow down to speed up. So it's knowing when to downshift to get through, where to take the right line, where to take the time to see the line before you really hit it.
Yeah.
Otherwise you end up doing what I did with poor Alan Simonson, and he went to correct my line just as I thought I should accelerate through the first turn at the bottom of the front straight. Yeah, we went for a little spin, and that slowed our track time down. Also resulted in Alan needing a lie down afterwards.
How's the car?
That was fine.
It's pretty got wide open paddocks. There's no tyre walls or anything you crash into.
No, although another Lotus punched a wall on the other side, and that wasn't great for them. But Alan said usually when he's got girls, they don't accelerate through the corner. He has time to correct their line, as not like me, which wants to just I'm like trying to go through the gears as fast as I possibly can. I'm like I'm trying to winding it right out to red, then shifting. He's like, right, I've got new rules for you.
Yeah, you're trying to win the world tour championship.
And it was I'd had my hand in bandages, for like 6 weeks beforehand, so I hadn't actually even been driving stick. So it was like the first time in my car driving for 6 weeks as well. I was like, just like punch it as hard as you can.
Let's go.
I just lost camera battery. Just hang there for a second.
It says EOS webcam utility. I think we've battery change.
Yeah, battery change. I think I told you earlier that I've been going for I don't know how many hours we're up to now. Solid. So I do tend to drain a battery as we go through. But I think that they're really good metaphors for business life, and really thinking about, when's the right time to slow down, to speed up, and what makes sense. Like where do you cut corners? Where don't you cut corners? And there's so many analogies and puns that we can draw from that side of things, right?
Absolutely. You did that well. That was good.
Oh, yeah, bang, and we're back.
Okay.
So now I got a little bit off track. What I do want to do is circle back though to the lessons you learnt and your ultimate decision to sell Engage, and how that all meshed together with you now doing more business on purpose and in alignment.
Great question. So how's this? How did I leave a tech company to follow my purpose and passion, to discover that, and then end up with another tech company? It blows my mind. I can't believe it. It's so all I can do is tell you how it happened. And it was weird. So I left Engage. I knew at the time we were going through the process of selling the business, which went from. So after the accident in New Zealand, I came back. I sat down with Joe and said, "Hey mate, I need to get out of this business." And he goes, "What do you mean?" I go, "I just needed to go do something else." He said, "Let's go for 2 more years. We'll build it up. We'll build up managed services, get more contracts. We'll be able to sell it for more." So we had that conversation. It's June 2016, and we made that decision. anyway, 2 weeks later, we get approached by Serious Networks, and then that began the 8-month process to sell the business. So within 2 weeks, and so I'm like, all right, and so you're about to, so going through that process was like, oh my goodness, somebody wants to buy a business. I can't believe it. And it's like, holy shit, this is wicked, it's sick. I was like, but what am I going to do next? And what if and then you start thinking about like, well, what am I going to do next? And it started like, well, all I wanted to do then and there at the time was to make a sick adventure, kind of like mini documentary snowboarding film. So I met this guy of course, like who doesn't want to do that shit? And so I met a mountain guide over in New Zealand that when I knocked myself out, and I hit him up, I sent him a message, go, hey mate, I want to come to Canada, because that's where he's from. I want to come to Canada and make a movie. I go, I reckon we'll need a videographer, a couple of mountain guides, and I'll bring me and a mate. And so that's all I was doing. So I started off, did that, came back. Whilst I was over there, everything got signed, sealed, and delivered. A few extra O's appear in the bank account online, and then you end up spending that money and paying stuff off. And there's like, so I went down the coast, I went down to Bells, I got a place down at Janjuk, not far away from there. And the Rip Curl Pro was on. It was like, okay, I've just sold my business. I don't have to speak to anyone. I don't have to, the email stop, the phone call stop. I was kind of like, sit here and I go for a surf and then hang out with the family. And I thought, oh, this is good. And it's kind of like, 1 week goes past. And I go, oh, this is great. 2 weeks go past. Oh, yeah. And then 3rd week goes past. I'm like, fuck, I'm getting bored. What am I going to do now? And so I remember I wrote an article and I posted it on LinkedIn. And then the next day I posted something else. And the next day I posted something else. And it was all the things that were going on in my mind at the moment and sharing my story pretty vulnerably. And so I did that. And then I started doing a little bit of mentoring. And then I hosted a workshop. And then it got to September 2017. And I went over to the US and had a family trip. And so while I'm over there, I ended up watching the baseball at San Francisco Giants were playing. And I got tagged in on a Facebook post, right? It said business for sale. And the business for sale was Bell Surf Wax. So here I am, I'm watching this baseball game. I'm sitting there on my phone, I got tagged. And I looked over to my wife at the time, I go, hey, I'm going to buy a business. And she goes, can't you just watch the game? And then
just watch the game.
And I go, yeah, okay. Anyway, she goes, like in about half an hour, she goes, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And I replied, yep, I'm interested. How much do you want? Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, within half an hour, I'd agreed to a deposit, the amount, and that I'd settle it when I came back. So, I started this adventure kind of business called the Future Phase. And then over in that same year, in October 2017, and it's for less than $10,000, right? I bought Bell Surf Wax, and I've spent and invested in that product and taken to the market. And then
I can't wait to get mine.
I know tomorrow there's a batch coming. And so I was doing that, and then I got to 2018, and then all of a sudden, me and the ex-wife are going separate ways. And it's kind of like, shit, I didn't see that coming. That wasn't part of the plan. I was selling the business, spend more time with family, but that's what happened. And so we've gone different ways. 2018, I'm like, holy shit. And then, the implications of that, the arrangements, fortunately, we've done it really, really well. But, obviously my family home, I went to my ex, and the cash that we had, that got used through the process. And so here I was again, I've got to rebuild, and so I've got some assets in properties, but they were mortgaged as well. So, how am I going to do this? And then I got to 2018, the end of 2018, and I've got to say, I was gone. I was like, gone to the doctors. I said, hey, I'm struggling. He diagnosed me with depression. He's given me antidepressants. And I went home that night, all right, and then had one, and then went for a surf the next day, and I'd had one, and didn't feel very good. And my mate said to me, what was it like surfing on one of it? I go, you know what? It didn't feel very good. It was like I couldn't feel. And I was like, no way can I keep taking these. So I went back, threw them in the bin, end of 2008, and go, you know what? Walked up to the mirror and I said, right, up to you to take total responsibility and accountability for everything in your life. If you're gonna go out and let loose and drink and carry on, you're not helping yourself. You've got to take responsibility. So it was end of 2018. I said, you know what? I'm just going to show up every day, do my best, be a good human. And then kind of did that. 2019, that kept going on. The Bell stuff kept percolating along. Ended up taking, you know, Melbourne United basketball team away on an experience down the coast. And so really combining all the passions, and then Shred for Life, the little not-for-profit, it's been manifesting that's going to come out of here. And then I got to the start of this year and I've got all these little projects on the go. And then it's like, I had two guys approach me and they said, have you ever thought about starting another technology company? And I go, oh yeah, no, not really. I haven't really given much thought. I'm doing a little bit at the moment, consulting and mentoring. It's going okay. I'm enjoying it. Anyway, next week, nothing more of it. Next week, playing golf, they said the same thing. They said, hey, we really want to start this tech company. We want you to lead it. We want you to get it off the ground. And I was like, okay. So I sat back. I was like, let me think about it. And so I sat back and thought about it and spoke to a good friend of mine, and spoke to a couple other people. And it was kind of like, you know what? This could be really, really good. I've been in tech for 20 years. I was like, you know what? This could be a great opportunity to not only go and provide value and awesome service and tech solutions in enterprise and SME space, but what a great opportunity and vehicle to spread the message that you've been sharing so much around, leadership and self-improvement in that community that you got experience in, and then introducing some of these programs through the future phase and the adventure and leadership stuff. And then it was kind of like, but then there's corporate people in the network who'd be interested in contributing to make a difference in teenagers. And so it just made this real commercial sense to do it at the time. And the world going into, Australia and Melbourne going down into this lockdown, we made the decision.
Like you can go surfing.
What's that?
Like you can go surfing.
Yeah, but this all happened like between January and March. Like, you know, I just come back from a trip. It was kind of like, and we made the decision, and the guy said to me, do you still want to do it? And I said, yeah. And so literally April 1st, I got 50% share in another tech company. I own Bell Surfwax. I own the future phase. I've got a not-for-profit starting out of here. And I'm like, how has this happened? And like, I had to self-check myself when it came up around the tech side of things. And it was, hang on, mate, you thought that you were leaving tech because you couldn't handle the corporate world. What I learned, in fact, it wasn't that at all. It was a failing relationship, that I couldn't keep going the pace that I was going without somebody supporting and serving and encouraging. And it wasn't the tech at the end of the day. It was the failing relationship and my decisions to put myself in situations where a conflict with my values that were making me miserable in life. And so had to come full circle. It spins myself up, and I've never been happier working in business. I feel so fulfilled. And I think, you know, looking back at Engage, I would have gone and pursued other projects, but because I was in a partnership with somebody else, I was committed to that partnership in business. So I don't know, it's quite bizarre. A lot of people have said to me, you know, BV, good things happen to good people. And I definitely help a lot of people, and definitely contribute and make a lot of people's lives better. And I'm going to continue to do that. And that was part of the reason for creating some of the businesses, to be able to help people in business and enrich their lives and businesses. And I don't know, I think the universe, if you're a good person, you do good things, you take accountability for your fuck ups, and you do the work, and you share openly with authenticity and vulnerability, I think you're going to go pretty far in life and business. So yeah, that's how I've come full circle.
Love it. So now just talk me about setting up this new business, and what are some of the things that you've really thought about differently to things before? Like, have you sat down and done a different style of planning, or thought about your vision, mission, and values, or what things are you doing different now that you've got the hindsight, and now that you've awakened and become a little bit more conscious?
Great question. I'm a build and develop kind of guy, and business plans and me, we don't really see eye to eye. However, in saying that, a business plan doesn't necessarily have to be a business plan. It could be a few words scribbled up on the wall here.
Yep.
You know, it could be a couple of things written down on a bit of paper, which I've actually got upstairs, is like butcher's paper, 1 page. Here's our plans for Engage. So in terms of the planning for this business, very, very loose. You wanted to build and develop it and grow. But I think what was important is ensuring that we've got the fundamentals in place. You know, number one, putting in the foundations and putting in the systems and the applications that you're going to run your business on. Number two, what are the products or services you're going to actually go to market with? What can you deliver today? What might you want to be delivering tomorrow? You know, who do you need to strategically partner up with? Which vendors are you going to go to market with? Is there any partnerships or value-added services you can go to market with? And then it's okay, let's look at marketing, let's look at brand, you know, like what look and feel do you want your brand to have based on what's in the marketplace in that sector at the moment? A lot of the organisations, are they very corporatized? Are they very, very plain? Like, how are you going to cut through? How are you going to be different? And then it's kind of like, all right, what are your values? What do you stand for? If speak about tech, for myself, I'm not a technical person, but I've got an amazing network with lots of amazing technicians and people around that can leverage off. So it's about thinking about and crafting your story in such a way that's really authentic, but it speaks to your value that you can actually add and the problems you can solve. And then it's like, all right, how are you going to deliver that? Like, how can you deliver all these thoughts and ideas that you might have crafted out? How are you actually going to deliver it? How are you going to go to market? So really important, an EDM, having an email marketing strategy. What social media platforms are you going to use? What segment are you going to target? Are you going to go after the enterprise space, like organizations that are 500 plus, or are you going to stick to, the 10 to 20 seats? It's all these different things. And it's okay, what message do they need to hear? What challenges have they got? And then just implementing some of the key core things like marketing plan. We talk about plan opt, we'll talk about actions, posting on a regular basis on your channels, ensuring there's EDMs go out on a regular basis, direct sales, who's in your network, who you're going to target. If you create a short list of the businesses you want to do business with, what are their challenges, what keeps them awake at night, and start building a relationship and start speaking to different people and just get energetic and get action and start like measuring your productivity each day, and not necessarily based on your result, but based on your input. Because if you show up enough days in a row over a period of time, the results aren't all going to come straight away. But once that lag period catches up, the results are going to come in. They're going to come in quick. And month 4 of Techtify, I don't think we've done much business. Maybe 23,000, and then month 6 we've done over $330,000. And it's by showing up every single day during a lockdown and having a good team who are owning and taking responsibility for their actions as well, and creating and fostering that culture that we can achieve and we can do it together, and helping people as they go through some of the fears they might have, some of the limiting beliefs, and really leading them into spaces where they can taste a little bit of success or break through a little bit a boundary condition they may have. They're all the kind of things I'm thinking about when I'm about to go to market and build out a new business. So there's a lot there that, if you can focus on 2 or 3 of those and do them really well, then you can build on that in steps 4, 5, and 6.
I love that. So let's dive just a little bit more deeply, a little deeper. Let's go deeper.
Let's go.
On culture. So what I loved and what I heard there is like you're helping people understand their limiting beliefs, really tapping into that side of things as well, their fears, because a lot of time people can't show up because there's something holding them back as well. But talk to me through a little bit about how would you describe your company culture, and how did you cultivate it? How do you curate it? And how do you replicate it?
It's been the biggest challenge I've ever had, is to put together a team that are all virtual. I've never had to do it before. Everybody's working from different environments. And at start, I was petrified, like Jade, because I love to walk into my workplace, energy. At home, chilled, recharge. But in my work, I'm like, I like being able to walk up to somebody, have a chat. I like to, hey.
Yeah.
My energy rubs off on people, and I know that. And so then they get more energetic. But I haven't been able to do it. So I actually think, to be fair, I don't think I've done that good a job. Like, honestly, I think everyone's going through challenging times. So to build a culture at the moment, I've been really mindful to not put too much burden on people with screen time. I get a lot of meetings and from different people, and they want to make it about a screen. And I'm like, this is awesome because we're having a video chat, we're recording it, but I'm like, they all automatically sending video conferencing stuff. I go, people are spending more and more time at the devices. We actually want to be getting them away from them as much as we can. So if it doesn't need to be a video call, don't make it a video call. Just a quick message or a quick email. So getting lean, getting simple with the actions. I think it's one thing that I've done well, and also encouraging the team just to, go for a walk. I think of Andrew. He's down at Fairhaven Beach. He's 29 years old. He's done a security degree. It's his first real opportunity to throw himself into an organisation, and he's very, very green. So green. And so he's come so far in 6 months, and I'm so proud of him. But just giving him the time personally just to have a chat. Like, he enjoys me just having a chat. And you know what's funny? Like, I've actually really enjoyed just chilling, because I get really personal in terms of really get to know the people I work with. And it's like, he's been making me laugh. And a 29-year guy, you know, works, you know, like if you think about from his perception, I try to bust this myth, and I go, there's only hierarchies here for one reason, Andrew, and it's so that when I need to make decisions, that you can follow them and we can execute what we do. But you know, at the end of the day, we're all equal, like so. And when he hears this, and I have these conversations with him, he like it empowers him, you know. And then so he's cracking jokes, and I'm having a laugh because some of the jokes with him, and I'm helping him with some different stuff, and you know, there's a bunch of quotes and stuff that need to be done now, and he's doing that already within 6 months, and I haven't had that face time with him. So I think creating a space to know that people can fuck up and it's okay, and also supporting them and encouraging them and backing them in 110% is something that really, really important too. So, but yeah, it's been super challenging, and I just can't wait to go and like our whole team hasn't met together. You know, there's 6 of us, we haven't even got together, and you know, like it's crazy.
Yeah.
But in an organisation, I love people to know that how much I believe in them and see their potential, which I genuinely do, and want them to, you know, experience everything they want in life. And I think when you come from a place of being a servant leader, and you kind of lead, you walk your talk, you say what you're going to do, you go and do it, and then you're willing to get your hands dirty, which is something that I take great pride in my life. I think it goes a long, long way to having people go, you know what, that guy, a little part of me wants to follow a little bit of what he's doing and try it on for a bit. And then that happens, and then they enjoy that, and then they try a little bit more on. And then I think it makes, just a nice place to lead people and foster a workplace of, you know, a can-do attitude and good times, which look at Engage Technology Group. I must say, we did a great time. We had a great business. We helped heaps of people out. We drove great numbers, and we had a bloody good time.
I love it. I want to circle back again. I'm doing the whole circle back all the time.
Good.
When we were talking about relationships before, you were talking.
Don't circle back to relationships.
No, there's a great segue. It's a segue. Promise.
I'm joking. You can ask me anything.
We were talking about like the number one thing is being truthful and honest, and then what you were just saying then about the team, allowing the safe space to fuck up. And this is where I think I do a lot of coaching with my clients around relationships and things like that as well. And the lines between business relationships or relationships. But that's the thing. If you want someone to be truthful and honest, you need to give them the space. And when I asked you what you thought before about why people don't, my belief is that it's because we get scared. We're fearful. We fear that you won't love me, or that you won't like me if I'm honest about how I feel, or that, you know, that you've got a belief, and if I don't believe you the same, then you're not going to love me anymore, or there's not that space to own the fuck up. Like you just get crucified or nagged to death, or do you know what I mean? Like there's not any acceptance, or what you were saying before about putting your feet in the shoes properly, or you get berated for your fuck up when you're like, okay, I'm already in pain, I'm already suffering, I know I fucked up. What I need you to do is grab the salt and just jam it in the wound, right? Like, just need you to,
I know it, I get it,
hold the space. But how that relates to the team too, right? If we really want to encourage people to, and this is what they say about those big, not only the tech companies but the unicorns, is that the people are allowed to have the creativity. And actually this stems from Brené Brown. And if you want people to be vulnerable, and if you want creativity, you need people to be okay to be vulnerable, and you've got to create the safe space for them to be vulnerable, because coming up with new ideas and testing things often means you're going to fall flat on your face, or like you've got to put yourself out there and try and explain something. So you need to feel safe to be vulnerable, to have that creativity. And it's in that you're going to have the power of the growth. So how do you create that? So whether that's in business or relationships or life, this is something I try to do a lot of work on, constant evolution. And I'm looking at bookshelf with millions of things. Do you have any things that you do, even if it's just phrases or something that you do within yourself, that allows your team to have that safe space to fuck up, or in your relationships to create the trust to openly share?
Wow.
I know.
Great
hey, box open.
Well, Which part? All right. To start with, like my vulnerability is massive, I reckon. So, even if I was reflect on the business world, being vulnerable and sharing personal challenges that I had at different times in the business journey can be perceived as a sign of weakness, especially in the corporate world. But there were times and we had a good culture where people could share what they're actually being challenged with personally. And we had a team because everyone kind of like knew, if somebody was going through something at the time, and people would take that into consideration. So creating a space, and it's got to be led. And I shared on another podcast the other day that it doesn't necessarily have to be the leader or the person who's got the title to be showing the vulnerability, for there to be vulnerability and create a space for vulnerability to show up. So, it's good to find somebody as well. Like we had a spiritual mascot in our business, and I wouldn't say he was the most talented technical person. He wasn't he was like pre-sales. He had, communication challenges when he first joined us. But this individual went about his work every single day. Every single day, he would try to find a way to improve. And so when I was leading and running meetings and talking about, commitment and sacrifice and discipline, quite often I could use this individual as a person as about how well he displays the company values. And so it was nice to have somebody in the team to be able to, acknowledge and also create some ways we go about doing business that we're not limited to anyone, but everyone to apply themselves. And when it's demonstrated at different levels in the organisation from the top down. And so I've always tried to make sure that I'm willing to be the last person to leave after packing up at an event, for example. So like that creates good space and good openness, vulnerability and trust within the team. There was something else that popped up in my mind before I went down that path, and I can't recall what it was. I'd love you to give me a trigger on the question. It was a bloody long question.
It was a really long question.
It was a great question.
So definitely around creating this space for team to share fuck ups and the vulnerability, but then also in relationships, how you can cultivate the trust that someone else can share either how they're feeling or that they feel safe to be honest.
Yeah. I think it's how you if somebody comes to you with something, I think it's how you respond immediately. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of effort for somebody to come up and be open and honest to another human being. That takes a lot of courage. And, in the past, I've been able to demonstrate that and do that, but maybe I haven't been so good at doing that to somebody else. Because that takes a lot.
Like, does my ass look big in this?
It takes a lot of courage, right?
Like, to answer honestly.
Well, my friend said to me, like Rory, and he's 10 years older than myself, and he came and he said, he was talking to different things about me and passing on his advice to me. And I don't know, and we're talking about dating actually, right? And so he said, if you're at a bar and a chick comes over and she may not come over and say g'day, but she might walk over to you, maybe elbow you or get your attention. It takes a fair bit of effort for that to happen. And when he shared with me, I was like, does it? And he goes, yeah. And I go, wow. And the same applies in terms of, if somebody comes up and they're open and courageous and share a fuck up, that takes a lot of fucking courage. And now I just I acknowledge it, and I'm pumped for that person and talk to them about how proud I am of them. And, just hold the space for that to occur. And then in that whole communication or engagement, now I'll spend 90% on holding the space and being there for them, and that 10% of the space talking about what happened on that part. And then down the track, then follow it up, because obviously some things might need to happen. Like there might need to be an action. Now, whether or not it's time sensitive or critical to a customer outcome, I'm not, it depends on the context. If something still needs to be done, I'd work to get something done. But, really just let them know that them as an individual is more important than the fuck up. You know what I mean? Yeah. And look at the relationship with that team member as, a long one. Like I see so many teams with revolving doors. I reckon in all of my businesses, the turnover has been like 5%. Like 95% will stay the whole journey. Like, and the turnover is low, and it's because I invest in that, not this.
Yeah.
You know, and people care, and like when people see that you care and you genuinely do, and that's why it's so important to be clear on who you are, what your purpose is, what your passion is, because how can you care when you're coming from a place of pain? You can't. You can't. If you've got a conflict, how can you be there? How can you show up every day? It gets harder and harder, and it's a journey. It's not saying I'm there now. It's a unfolding journey, but it's being aware to know when you are and aren't present for somebody else and having that awareness.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
One of the things that we used to do in my last business is we'd have in our meetings, everyone had to share a fuck up from the week. So on Fridays we did reflection, and it was like, okay, where did you fuck up, and what can you teach somebody else here so that they don't have to go through your pain or embarrassment to move forward, or what can we learn so we can mitigate that risk in the future, because like then every fuck up becomes an opportunity for learning, and that space is held. And I think it's a big part of grooming the rest of the team, not to just, sometimes it's okay to laugh, but not to crucify. And like you said before, like deal with it at the time it needs to be dealt with. So you don't necessarily need to go into and throw the salt in the wound and highlight the fact that it's a mistake. Highlight like, okay, what do we need to do to fix it or to it not happen again? And as a leader, if it is, and actually even in a relationship, I do Friday reflection with all of my coaching clients now as well. Like we jump on the Wetsuit CEO calls on Fridays and we all go through it. It's like, okay, extreme ownership. Where were you at cause, or what could you do differently to mitigate that risk or to prevent that undesirable outcome to happen? And, you know, even if you look back at us divorcees, we have the opportunity to look back at where we kind of could have done things. And, you know, I could have understood love languages a lot earlier and realized that his primary love language was quality time and gifts, where mine is physical touch and words of affirmation, totally off. And I spent, 38 hours a week training for football and running a startup and starting a football league, like the quality time.
Yeah.
So maybe me not giving quality time led to him drinking more and being an asshole to me when I walked in the door, which then perpetuated me going, well, I don't want to walk in the door very often. You need me to do another project? Sure. You want me to pick up another team? Okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's all that, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I was like, don't feel so great at home. So if someone else asked me to fill in, play another game, I'll do that. Or pick up another project at work or work with another charity because I had an avoidance, whereas it was my avoidance that was causing the problem in the first place.
Yeah.
So if we can scale back, like you said before, about ownership and going, okay, where did I contribute to this? And how could I, in the beautiful lens of hindsight, make an adjustment, or what could I teach somebody else to help them not go through this?
Powerful words, and good on you, I say. That's, it takes a lot of, like I said before, it takes a lot of courage to own up to your shit and acknowledge that you caused the shit. And, in my scenario, as a male, as a bloke, as a husband, like I created a fair bit of shit in the space of our relationship, and it's easy to go down the path of trying to deflect and point and blame, and it actually doesn't go anywhere. And if there's any guys out there, like, the circumstances around the ending of my relationship are like, it's been probably one of the best things, as challenging as that is, it's been one of the best things for myself, but it's more than just me involved in, like, there's my kids and then also my ex, and it's probably been the best thing for all of us, and even though there's circumstances surrounding, her partner now and stuff around that, I took the approach real early on. I was going, you know what? I can blame that guy and I can blame all these different things, but you know what? If I loved my wife the way that she needed to be loved and deserved to be loved and valued, then she wouldn't have had any thinking or thoughts about anybody else. And it was like, then a good narrative. Yeah, but you're out going out and working and providing for the, but hang on. Yeah, but you got to take responsibility for that too. And so it's a challenge for men. And I think we've got to, pull up our socks a little bit. And this is only based on, through what I've learned by fucking up, by the way, is that, you know, if you can take responsibility for your fuck ups and really own how you've made other people feel, then it does a few things. One, it enables and creates a space for you to forgive yourself. And two, it creates space for the other person to forgive themselves as well, so that everybody can move on forward with their lives. And when you don't take responsibility and keep just fucking exchanging backwards and forth, it doesn't help anyone, and it only harms and it only hurts. And so if there's any guys out here that may resonate with, I really encourage you to lean in and take responsibility for stuff, because, you know, it's challenging, but we talk about slow is fast, Jade.
Yeah.
You know, my relationship ended 3 years ago and I've healed and I'm moving forward with my life and I feel great. And you see people who waste their entire lives in the pain, you know, like.
And worse, taking the sins of one onto another. So like painting everyone with the same brush. Like, man, mine separated 4 years ago, and I've done, as you can see it, I'm doing a lot of work on reflecting, and rather than the blame or whatever, trying to go, okay, well, where I played a part in this somewhere. What do I want to learn from it? How do I not want that to happen again? And this is not about blame myself, and doing some forgiveness stuff as well, but going, okay, well, where does that serve me? And how would I, if I have the opportunity to re-script it, move forward? But then dating over the last few years, like started going out with some guys and they've been through something similar, and, you know, all women are the same, and all, like, especially if they've been, if they've left. And if you look at some of those situations, they probably had the similar things. Business owners, they were out grinding, working, thought they were doing the right things, providing. I bought her a 5-bedroom mansion on the beach and I did all this stuff. Well, guess what? All she wanted was you to come have dinner with her. She didn't want a fucking 5-bedroom mansion. Right? I was the I've kind of alpha maled. I was the primary breadwinner in our relationship, the whole relationship.
Sure.
And, you know, and wanted to provide for my family and other things as well. So I thought that, you know, more working, more accolades, more things, more here, credit card that's what we want. Oh no, actually you genuinely want me to sit down on the couch and watch reality TV with you. Like, that's going to make you feel way better than the $1,350 we're paying on rent.
Yeah.
Right. So, but if you don't take the time or be conscious in understanding it, and that's why I do love languages with teams as well, and cool. Profile testing and things, because understanding how someone feels appreciated.
Yeah.
Even friends and family. Oh my God, revolutionized my relationship with my sister. Understanding quality time, and not, especially when I was in the peak of my recruitment firm, I'd go to lunch and always have my phone out, and I'd pick it up, and like I used to leave going, why the fuck would I have lunch with her again? She's such a bitch. Like, she's just not nonstop having a go at me. She just doesn't get it.
Yeah.
The whole time she's there thinking, well, she just doesn't even care about me. I mean nothing to her, because or she's like, why'd she even come? It's like, wow. Yeah. What can you change? I can just explain that I've got an important call and I've got to wait for my phone. She's then understanding, and I only take the important call. Or if it's not important, put my phone on airplane mode.
Yeah. Yeah. How's that word you said? Explain. Such a powerful word, explain. And I think a lot of people don't have the ability to communicate and explain themselves, the reasons why they think or feel things, right? To keep the peace, to stay safe. But suppression kills expression, you know, like it.
Oh, writing that one.
And we need to express. We all need to express. It was like I was that kid in class that I used to sit there and the teacher would ask the question, you know, and I watch everyone else's hands go up, and I'm like, I'd be sitting there going, fuck, I know the answer to that, but I'm not putting my hand up. You know, like I knew the answer, but I was too scared to speak up and out. You know, I was too scared to speak up and out then. And I saw it manifesting later in my life, in my personal life. I was like, holy shit, I've got to do something about this. And now I'm like, express away. I don't, you know, like, and again, coming back to identity and being aligned with your vision, your values and purpose, all those things, the closer you get to that, the less of everything else matters.
Yeah. And really thinking about how you can help other people feel safe to do that expression, especially kids.
Kids, I know.
Yeah, because you took on that. You probably stopped expressing and stopped putting your hand up, maybe because something happened at home.
Yeah.
Or a teacher berated you in the classroom, or the kids laughed at you.
Which ones?
So what our responsibility is as humans, but definitely as business leaders, to be the ripple effect, is to go, how can we allow people that space? And it's going to do nothing but help your business. Like, imagine everyone that worked with you. So whether they be team members, suppliers, freelancers, customers, were able to express freely and come to you with their fuck ups, their ideas, or explain how something you did made them feel. How much quicker could we grow our business? How much, like, this is where you can 10x things. This is where you can really explode, because the growth can be so much quicker because you can iterate fast. So if something happened, you're iterating. Like, a lot of people don't review their business until either like the end of the quarter, or worse, the end of the year. If you as a business owner and your team is reflecting every week on what worked, what didn't work, what to keep, what to delete, what to start doing, looking at what fucked up, what went right, what went wrong, and how you can turn the dial. Like, think of that compounding effect over 52 weeks versus if you did it 4 times or once. Like,
there you go. Yeah. It's that accountability to that weekly devotion and getting stuff done right. And that compounding effect is massive.
Yeah.
And people don't realize, because the results don't show up straight away or in the first 6 months, sometimes even in the first 12 months, sometimes not even in like enough in the first 18 months, but the results are achievable, and you need to show up every day. Well, not every day. You need to show up every day.
But every day you need to be there.
So like, and if you're a good person and you make decisions based around values, and you've got good people in your team that their personal values are aligned to the corporate values or your business values and yourself, you're going to have a pretty synergistic environment where people are working together to achieve a common outcome. And whilst it sounds like something that's written in a textbook and so many people talk about culture, I think there's very few that can execute it really, really well. And there's more and more, but you see,
culture isn't just beanbags and ping pong tables, is it?
I'm putting a slide in here, and I've got a ping pong table, and there's a dartboard, and there's a basketball ring, and there's going to be a gym, but it's not that stuff.
I want the slide.
It's their hearts. It's their hearts.
Yeah.
No, people's hearts.
It is the heart. And then when we get back to the fact that, we're souls here having a human experience, like, we didn't come here just to grind under lights and get flogged and hit KPIs. Like, we're here to connect to heart and to work together to see things grow. So fostering that I always say happiness is the greatest hack to productivity and profitability. So if you can find a way to be the ripple effect of happiness, then only good things are going to come.
Yeah, amazing. I love that. I'm still like, happiness, productivity. It's good. I like that one.
I'm going to switch gears again on us. I want to go back to Bell's Surf Wax.
Okay. There's a lot of switching here.
I know. I miss my Lotus. I miss having a gear stick.
Okay.
High ace. I don't get to switch gears. Okay. Bell's Surf Wax.
Are people watching? Are we getting questions?
I don't know. I forgot to say on Facebook that when I go live on Facebook from Zoom, I don't actually check it.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Can you see it?
Nothing.
Yeah, well, otherwise I'm typing notes here. I'm talking to you. I'm trying to.
It's better being present, isn't it? It's better being present with the person you're speaking to, because you can catch up on all that stuff. I shared it though onto my, so I don't know.
My assistant shared it everywhere, but I haven't looked. I will look. So with Bell's, you bought it because you got tagged on Facebook?
Yeah, pretty much. Like literally.
Right. Now I think
so much more than that.
I think we must have got connected just beforehand.
Really? Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because it kind of sprung out of nowhere. Just talk me through, Bells, what you're doing with it. What's the mission and vision? And because this is the surf, this is
Yeah, I know. So cool. Hey, unreal. Thanks for creating. This has been a great chat, by the way. So it was really interesting. So I was overseas and we said, yeah, no worries. The guy's name, he's called Sam Ham, the guy who owned and started Bell Surf Wax, and he founded it in 2013. He's a really good guy, like real nice guy, and is a plumber by trade. I think his son got drafted to play for the Bombers a year ago or something ago, but a lovely guy. So anyway, I'm over in America, and I was coming back around the 14th or 13th of October in 2017. I said to him, I'll be back then, we'll sort it all out. And on the 15th of October, me and two of my friends, Sticks and Kylie, we had a fundraising event called a New Wave down at Torquay Surf Lifesaving Club, Torquay Beach, and we raised $10,000 for living. And the day before, I just got back into the country and I went to Sam Ham's house to get some wax for the day tomorrow, the charity fundraiser surfing event we had. That was the sickest day. And I rock around to Sam's place and he goes, "G'day, mate. How you going?" We shake hands, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, "Okay, come out here. I'll show you how we do it." So he literally rolls up the roller door in his garage and he takes me through this process on how he creates the wax. And he's got molds and so he had a rice cooker, right? He had a rice cooker. And what he'd do, you get the wax in bulk and then he melt it down in the rice cooker. And that'd take about 10 to 15 minutes for just the right temperature. And then he'd once it got to the right temperature, he'd pour it into the molds. And then so he poured into the two molds. So he made two for me to show me how he does it. And then pours me the glass. And he goes, then what I usually do is I sit back, I'll go inside, I'll grab a stubby, and then I'll have a beer. And then by the time I finish the beer, I'll come back out and they'll be done. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, holy shit, has this guy seen me with a hammer and a nail? I'd break me thumb. So I've gotten better with using my hands and doing more laborious stuff with my hands. But so this is the thing. I'm kind of like, okay, no worries, great, this is awesome. So I pick up everything and walk out to the car and put it in the car. It's like a container. It's got a rice cooker and he was wrapping the product up with plastic, initially in terms of the packaging. And so I got it and I looked at it all and I thought, holy shit, I've got some thinking and some work to do here. But I couldn't see myself out in a garage doing that and all the beers that have to go along with it. I don't drink that much. So I end up being pissed out here every day and making this wax. Anyway, so I gave it some time and I thought about it and it was kind of like, you know what, we really need to have a product that we can ship all over the world, like wax with different types of water temperatures. And so I thought about that. And then I thought the packaging, we need to do something around the packaging of it. And then it's kind of like, well, what do we stand for? Why? Why another surf wax brand, and number one for me, it was really important. My love for surfing in the ocean started at probably the age of 12, 13, where I met a friend I always loved the ocean, going away on holidays, but to surf, unfortunately, I met a family when I was in year 9 of high school, year 8 or 9 around that time, and they had a house down the coast. And so every weekend I'd get invited, or most weekends I got invited to go down, and that's where I first started surfing. And I remember one of the first days I surfed 13th, just down here on the surf coast, just down the road, and it was 5 foot out the back, and it was cold, and I had holes in a borrowed wetsuit I had, and I couldn't get out, and I got smashed, and I came and I go, I'm not doing that again. But it became something that became quite ritual, and the challenges that I had as a 15, 16-year-old, as a teenager, it was a great way for myself and also many others to get away from all of that. Now, I was raised in the Melbourne suburbs. So, to go surfing, you had to get in the car and drive for 2 hours, or an hour was a closer surf beach. So it was quite a mission and commitment to get down the coast. We'd hitch rides. We'd have our older friends who've got their license just so you could get in the car to get down the coast for the weekend. And if you had a place to stay, which I was fortunate enough to have a place to stay with Davo and his family, if you weren't, you're just like, all right, make it up as we go. And us boys just knew that we needed to get away and we needed to be down the coast and we needed to surf, and then we come back, and so we did. And, through some of the most challenging days, some of the surfs that, to paddle out of Bells and Winky and just that whole coast and surfing around there, just to get lost and escape all the problems and challenges I've had in life. It was just, for me, it was a very personal thing. So when the opportunity came up to have, some sort of product in the surf industry, number one, I was like, this is great. It's kind of like something that's means so much to me, and it still means a lot to me now. And I think with that, passion and commitment, then it creates a great space to incubate something of meaning. And so, you know, we went through a process. There's a great guy who makes some awesome wax, and he's been making wax in Australia for 30 years. So we've teamed up together, went through a branding and a packaging, changed the design of the packaging and the branding, so we're not got no plastic. And then it was kind of like, all right, we'll start posting some stuff.
Makes me happy.
Hey?
Yeah. Happy. You know, I'm on the war against plastic.
Yeah. So it's all Australian owned. It's all like no plastic and that type of stuff. Like cardboard. It doesn't have all the Vaseline and petroleum shit like some of the other ones do, which are more stickier, for sure. But you know, it was, again, how are you going to be different? And then what happened? Started posting some stuff on Instagram, and then I got kids reaching out. You know, 15-year-old kids. Hey, I want to be sponsored. Can you sponsor me? And I'm like, have a look. And you know, I was going to. You know, the initial thing was I'm going to check out their Instagram pages and look at their clips. And, you know, I started looking at it all, and it was kind of like, oh, what a good kid, you know, reaching out and taking the initiative. And sick, do I think they're the best surfer in the world, or they're going to be world champion? I go, no, pretty good, but maybe not. You never know, though. And it was kind of like, yeah, I'll support them. And then it was kind of like, you know, which one of these kids will go on and be world champion or have a career in surfing? Maybe a handful of them. Was kind of like, so, you know, I feel a sense of responsibility to help these kids out, because, you know, what about outside of that? And so it was kind of like, Shred for Life came about. And it was like, yeah, we want to support them with surf wax, but what about we started creating a space for kids to not only be sponsored, but receive education? And, you know, it kind of like manifested into this other thing where there was this skating, surfing, snowboarding culture coming together. And, you know, at the same time, I was skating around a lot, and then it's just been bizarre. So, like, I've had a bunch of kids reach out. Now they're riding for the team, and they're based all over the world. We get more people hitting our inboxes every single day. And the challenge for me in the past 12 months is being able to, you know, going through the personal challenges, being able to connect with them all, connect with each of them. And then, you know, like, what programs do we want to offer them? You know, like these kids, who's teaching them about relationships? Who's teaching them about, you know, how to discover your purpose and passion? So this idea for Shred for Life came about through the fact I thought I wasn't being of value to these kids by just sending them surf wax or hoodies or hats that we got made for them. And so out of that, Shred for Life was born. And then about at the same time, Nick, who works at a secondary school, he approached me and he's like, I'm teaching maths and English and I do all this cool outdoor ed stuff, but these kids need to be taught how to live and like life. And I go, I know, mate, I know. And he goes, you know what? He goes, let's do Shred for Life together and combine the surfing, the snowboarding, the skateboarding experience stuff with teaching these life skills. So last year we go into a classroom and we run first 5 modules. One of them was called Identity. One of them was called Fixed versus Growth Mindset. One was called, How to Set Goals. One was called something about gratitude. And then the other one was escapes me. But we've got 10 modules now. We've got pre-workbooks, post-workbooks, and we've got the experience place here for kids to be able to come and skate. But this all came about through the surf wax. So it's kind of like how, you know, positioning that business as a different business. It was like kind of a bit like the thank you water guy, that Daniel Flynn guy, you know, have water, but it was still water at the end of the day, but it was making a difference. And I kind of sat there and go, you know what, this is surf wax. Is it the best surf wax in the world? That's open to debate, right? But it's really good. But, you know, like some of the more traditional brands, but I'm like, you know, but what's the opportunity here? What's this really about? And it's about empowering teenagers all over the world to, you know, and kids to pursue surfing, to pursue things like skateboarding, snowboarding for a number of reasons. Number one, you know, surfing, snowboarding, skateboarding, you got to step into fear and all those things. And there's one thing about those individual sports that team sports can't teach, and that is owning owning everything, taking 100% responsibility for your thoughts, your emotions, your actions. And so the combination of these experiences combined with education has been the foundations and the heart of what Shred for Life came about. And it came about because of a surf wax brand that I bought for $8,000 because I got tagged in on a Facebook post over watching the San Francisco Giants. So wow. The power of manifestation, the power of being aligned, and it's kind of like that.
So many things that are like a lot dropping for me right now. We've been we were talking about like not forcing things and things happening for a reason and blah, blah, blah. That linked me to on Friday, I was supposed to record a podcast with this amazing human called Matty Barber, and he's created a school called CooeeGC. And we were due to meet up. I couldn't, like, it's school holidays here. There was surf for the first time in a little while. And we're in the border zone, right? So we had the overlap of Queensland and New South Wales. Like, it's just, I don't know why I thought going out at 26 degrees on a Friday afternoon when there's actually surf was a great idea in the van. But we couldn't find anywhere to park. And then it was like, I didn't have my tripod to set up here at home. And it's like, it just felt like a rub. And it's like, do we push the podcast and just do it? Or do we just go for lunch and we talk? Because we've been meaning to catch up. We surf out the front all the time. We met him in the surf.
Yeah.
And we talk. And I said to him, I believe everything happens for a reason. We'll figure out why. And then I started talking to him and I was like, this is why. This is why we couldn't do the podcast, because I need to sponsor you through my program to help you. Because he got all my podcast documents and everything. He's like, fuck. He sends me a thing going, fuck, wow. All I can say is wow. And I'm like, you okay? And he's like, the detail. And you saw my stuff that got sent out.
It's sick. I said the same thing.
He's like, I need this. And I'm like, don't freak out. He's like, no, I need this for CooeeGC. Like, this is what I need. And he was like all in a state. So I was like, this is the reason I've been looking for a new youth project to align with, because I used to work with Ray's Foundation in Sydney and I was on the committee and I mentored at-risk youth in school, and I've been trying to find the right thing that fits. But I also have this calling now, you're talking about alignment to purpose and business, that I need it to be aligned somehow to the ocean or to the beach. And I want it to be with youth, and I want to help kids that didn't have the same, like, that had, same sort of issues as me growing up. And here I am sitting with this guy that's got this amazing thing that he's doing, but needs the clarity to be able to enroll more students and to get the sponsorship and to help bring it to life.
Yeah.
And it's almost exactly what you just said about your friend, Matt, with school teacher. So he's a school teacher. He was teaching in schools, seen that there was this huge society was letting a bunch of kids down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And schooling kind of lets a lot of them down. My opinion, all of them down, but that's another rant.
I totally agree.
And so I want to put you guys in contact, because he's now aligned through, and Queensland Education actually funds the program pretty much, and they're attached to a school. But this morning, the reason why I knew the reef was pumping is because I could see all the red vests out the front. They take year 11 and 12 students and put them through. And so Mondays and Tuesdays, they do actual surfing. Wednesdays, they do surf fitness. Then they go to school, and they also do trainee or apprenticeships with businesses.
Amazing.
So there's definitely some alignment there. So
much alignment.
I'm like, for me, I'm now going to work and coach the kids and mentor the kids and teach them real skills. Yep. I'm going to put Maddie through the program so we can help build CooeeGC as a bigger school.
Yes. Yeah.
And then look at how can we take this to other people. So for me, that's the thing. We didn't force it. We set it in. There was a reason why we had to wait. And now everything is dropping in. So I'd love to talk to you more about Shred for Life and how I could contribute, because I really do believe that the fate of humanity rests on the shoulders of the business owners, and it's our responsibility to be the ripple effect. And that's through helping the youth to be able to get these life skills and to look at things different, to break free of the culturescape and the bullshit rules of society. And how can we set them up to be better citizens? And ideally, how can we get more of them in the ocean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's you're right. There's a sense of responsibility for us business owners, especially at the moment. We're going through a massive, generational shift, you could say, and there's a lot of moving parts globally and also, nationally here in Australia. And I've got a number of different concerns. And at the same time, I like to look at things with, faith in humanity and a belief that good will always prevail over evil, and that there's somebody out looking over after everything. And I think, we are going through challenging times, but that doesn't mean that the future is not going to be, how we'd like it to be. And it's going to take, I think it's really hard, especially Melbourne. Speaking from Melbourne, being, you know, locked up, it's going to take people to start realizing what their personal power is. And, you know, 3 or 4 years ago, I came out after, you know, leaving the corporate world. And it was kind of like, I saw people wearing their masks in the corporate world 3 or 4 years ago, not being authentic or truthful to who they really are. And, you know, it's the same people that I thought were asleep then are now the ones all wearing the masks. And so I won't say anything other than that. But I think,
like, I feel like a lot of people be like, yeah, it's easy for you to say, like, look where I live, and I'm in Queensland and can pretty much run around freely. Haven't had the same impact, but I kept saying that the universe has sent us to our room to think about what we've done, and she's just going to keep fucking slapping us and putting us back in our rooms if we don't start thinking about it and waking up and making the better choices. And there's a lot of books on spirituality that I believe that I love what you said before. We are all connected and we are all energy. And, you know, it sometimes, and if you look at 100-year cycles, that things need to be done to bring back the balance. And it's uncomfortable and it's shit. And for some people, it sucks way more than others.
Yeah.
But we've got to look at what can we learn from this, and what do we need to do, and what's my part in, even if it's tiny, to making the change, and what's the learning and where's the blessing. Like, if you look at anyone that takes extreme ownership and is really tapped into spirituality, will go, there's a lesson in here for me and there's an opportunity. Like, every bad thing, we can either be the victim or the victor, and we can look at what can come from it. So looking at the situation and going, okay, like, look what you've done in this time. And and I know you're using your voice, although it's being somewhat silenced on some platforms, to help. But if a lot of people, like someone said to me the other day, oh, why bother, was a cute little kid, why bother buying bamboo when everyone else uses plastic? Like, what's your one thing going to do? Yeah, but if I do it once, and then I get you to do it once, and then you get someone else to do it once, and then they do it once.
Yeah.
It's the roll on.
The ripple effect, right?
It's the ripple effect.
Have you heard the story about the boy walking along the beach and he finds all the turtles washed up on the beach?
Yes.
You have heard the story?
Can you tell it?
So I can't quite remember all the bits of it, but I don't know why. It's really bizarre, but I keep thinking about Lakey Peak, which is a surf spot over there. When I think of his story, I don't know when I first
I'm going to scroll in a second to Sumbawa. We'll come back to that. Keep going. Yep.
There's a boy throwing all the turtles. They've been washed up on the beach, and he's throwing all the turtles back in the water. And then an elderly man comes across, or an older man comes across, and says, "Oh, you know, well, why bother? Like, look how many turtles there are." He goes, "Why bother?" And he said, "Yeah, but if everyone just picked one up and threw it back, then they'd all be back in there." And like what you're saying. And you know, everyone just does one thing to shift something in their lives to have a more harmonious and ecologically sound universe and world moving forward. It doesn't have to be massive. It can be a little thing, and then you can taste and experience and feel what it feels like to do that, and how enriching and fulfilling it is. And then you can go another little piece, and you start to realize that some of the things that you've been conditioned to think are helping you aren't. And then you go, fuck, this is better. I feel better. I can operate better. I can live better. I'm happier. I'm better. You know. And,
and as soon as you raise, every time you raise your vibration, whether it be like one, I don't know, do we measure the vibrations?
How do you measure
What do we measure that in?
I don't know. Yeah. What's the measurement?
Though, right? The higher we go, and it compounds, and it makes you feel that little bit better. It makes something else feel a little bit better. Like throwing that turtle back, it may not have mattered to the rest of the turtles on the beach, but it fucking mattered to the one turtle that got thrown.
Yeah, 100%. You know, 100%. And you know, it sounds like we're dreaming and we're we're hippies and we're in the clouds, and like it's awesome. Because the challenge I have though, Jade, where's the science behind the stuff we're talking about? Where is it? Like, you know, everyone wants science and everyone wants 100% accuracy and everyone wants to be correct these days. And we're looking for evidence for fucking everything that's going to happen in the future based on what's happened. Like, come on, are you kidding me?
I say, are you looking for evidence or are you looking for excuses? Because a lot of the time they're trying to use evidence as an excuse.
Very good.
So and you can find evidence for almost anything if you pay the right person. if you want the real evidence, look inside yourself, get connected to soul, meditate on it, and ask yourself how you really feel. Is there a rub? Is your energy going up or going down? Are you getting sick or are you getting energized? Do you know what I mean? Like, did you get that gut feeling like when you went to do it, or did it feel a bit icky? Is it heavy? Is it light? Like, if you start being able to tap in, you'll know within yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, next time you go to buy a plastic water bottle, ask yourself, does it, like, if you actually think about it and you're making the choice out of paying 20 cents more for a glass one or 50 cents more, like another lovely child moment last night, we were trying to find sparkling water and there was no, like, I'm like, get the San Pellegrino. It's in a green bottle or big glass. She comes back and it's in plastic again. And I'm like, what? She's like, it's a green bottle. It says the San Pit. And I'm like, why is San Pellegrino gone from glass to plastic? And then I went and got the other one. I took off the shelf. She goes, that one's $1 more. I said, yeah, but I think it's worth it to the ocean and to our planet to pay the $1 more for the glass bottle.
Yeah. Agreed.
And she's like, oh. She's like, what will you do with the bottle? I said, well, I'll probably fill it up at home and use it for filtered water, or worst case, it recycles better. Oh. Yeah. And she goes, I think that's worth $1.
Beliefs, right? Empowering beliefs. You know, and what people's beliefs around money. You know, that's a whole nother rabbit hole we could go down.
Oh yeah, we could screw off.
Yeah.
Before I go on my eco high horse, let me squirrel for one last time.
One last time. What is the time? It's 10 past 4. Okay.
Sure.
One last squirrel hole. Let's go.
Sumbawa.
What? Sumbawa.
Yeah, Sumbawa.
Well, I was over. So this is kind of like a bit of the I like to think, you know, in my mind, I have stories playing out. It's like in my mind, I constantly playing out these stories in my mind, reflecting. And, you know, I think for anyone who goes through a pretty shit time where they've got to reset their personal life and their professional life, you're like a phoenix coming out of the ashes. You know, you're rising up. It's not easy for that to happen, and it takes some sort of level of conscious thought. And I remember it was last year. I was over in Sumbawa. I'd surfed super surf with my friend Jade, who I'd met 8 days earlier. The Dream Factory wasn't even a thought. Having a place over there wasn't even a thought. I was earning $30,000 per year. I was building back up. I was like, no shit, I was building back up. Coming back off the success, smash, build yourself back up, but don't overdo it, right? So here I am, all right. And I was over there, spent 10 days over there, and I was like, it's time to go back on the attack. It's time to go back on the offense. It's time to, I like to call it debt-propelled selling. Debt-propelled selling. DPS. There you go, and extend your neck out, and then you step up every day to make sure it happens, right? So I said to Jai when I left, I go, hey, mate, it'd be really cool to have a place here. Like, let's get a place here. And having the freedom, being, you know, a single guy, I wouldn't have done that with my partner because it wouldn't have been supported. So, but I was like, you know what? I go, let's get a place here. So he goes, all right, no worries, leave it with me. And then I came back and then I bought this little caravan, a little $10,000 caravan. It was like an Airstream, like an Aussie Airstream. It was like this little, but I bought it off a friend. He had 10,000. I'll sell it. He goes, I'll buy it off you. So he sold me that. And then this place came up and I was like, I need to get a place. I just knew that I needed a base. I needed a home. I needed somewhere to be able to create and release. And so in the space of a month, when I got back, I committed to buying a block of land over in Indonesia. I bought this bloody 10 grand caravan and I committed to buying this place with no finance in place, no support from finance, earning 30K, coming back off the comeback, you know, picking myself up. And I just was like, all right, I'm ready to go now. I'm ready to be on the attack again. I'm ready to have the pressure. I'm ready. And, you know, one thing's led to another thing, where I managed to settle this 45 days late after not getting supported for finance with the CBA. There's always a way. There is always a way. I ended up paying off that Airstream caravan that I had 12 months ago. I ended up paying for that. And then I sold it a month ago and made 8 grand on it, you know. And at the time, it's never been about the money. It was about the game. It was about stepping out. And it's just like fascinating. And then, yeah, getting into this place and some of the work we've done here already, and, you know, coming off nothing to go, you know what, your talents, abilities, and these skills, double down on them, go all in. Now's the time to start showing up, and starting to work really, really hard. And that's what I've been doing for the last 12 months, literally rebuilding. And then even 6 months of those, I've been in confinement. But you know what? In the last 6 months, I've grown more than I would have had in the last 3 years. It's been profound. And, you know, got week on, week off with the kids, and you have a lot of time to think. And I think we're talking about people getting back into relationships and getting people into relationship. I've spent 3 years pretty much on my own, you know, a little bit of dating, but by intention, and not getting involved with somebody else, having lots of uncomfortable silences on my own to process my shit. And it's been a real gift, and it's a challenging one, that's for sure. And I really encourage people to have the, I guess, self-love. I reckon you need to really love yourself to be able to go, you know what, I don't need anyone else to be happy. And I definitely want to have a life partner that I share life with. I can't wait for it. And I'm like, okay with not to be in a rush around it as well. I don't need it, you know, and I can't wait just to come from that space in a relationship where, you know, I met my ex-wife at 25 and I was in a codependent relationship for 15 years, 18 years. But you don't get taught that stuff at school, right?
No.
Your parents don't teach you.
Such a beautiful lesson to give others about being able to love yourself, because if we're trying to fill the gap with a relationship and we're not 100% comfortable, then you're constantly putting an expectation on the other person that they may not be able to live up to.
Yeah.
That's where resentment and issues and blame and all of that energy comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so going back to Sumbawa, so I met Jade, we did yoga every day, we made this commitment, we just seemed like brothers. Like, he compliments me so well, I compliment him so well, you know, like he shreds on a surfboard, he's got the long blonde hair, and but he's a yogi. But just our conversations are amazing. I had 100% trust in this man straight away from when I met him. I go, let's do it. And so it's great. We've got our space now. It's all been leveled out. We've got power. We've got water. He started planting an edible forest, so we want to have fruit and veg we can eat from. We'll have some wax over there. We'll run yoga retreats. We'll chill out. We'll go and surf pumping waves, hikes, snorkeling. There's so much to do without all the BS that we live in an overregulated society here.
So when we're allowed to travel again, when can I bring my
exactly
surf retreat there?
There's like a long list. There's like a mega list of people. I'm coming. Absolutely. When we can travel again, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
when do you think it'll be built? When will it be actually done? Or
so we've got like little plans. We're about to get the stuff for the houses and the accommodation. And the fortunate thing is, you know, how it led to that is my cousin and his friend, a few years ago, built Baha Villas right in the same spot. And so we've had two friends and family go over there and build this awesome, sick place for people to go and enjoy. And they've got a great place. So they've got this accommodation, pool, Wi-Fi. Look, I was working over there last year. It was so good. And it's you get away from all the noise and you got space and you can think and you can plan. And so it's been great to know the guys there. So if you wanted to go over there now, you go and say Baha. But we're doing our little thing, and I reckon we'll be done by, I don't know, middle next year, and maybe end of next year it'll be ready to visit. So just depends how much comfort you like. I don't need too much comfort, but
I stay at Sticky's place on the cliff at Bingen if I need to.
Yeah. That's it.
If you've got the epic view and not too many tourists, and yeah, I'm happy to. I grew up in a trailer, so. I do like my 5-star stuff, but if it's a matter of being right on the beach, got the view, got the setting, I'm more than happy to rough it too.
Sick. Also, I'd love to know that story about the trailer. That's cool. I love the struggle to success stories. They're the best. I love them.
Yeah. Well, I think my team put out a post the other day, a picture of me with my van saying like you can take the girl out of the trailer park, but you can't take the trailer out of the girl. So it's come full circles, just gone from living in the caravan park and living in a van to having my van.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting, isn't it, when you go post-relationship in the middle parts of your life, how you go revert back. So I've reverted back to before I met my ex. At the age 25, who was? I'm like, whoa, who was that kid?
Yeah.
Kind of going back to try to pick up, you know, like the story, I guess you could say, in it.
Yeah.
That childlike faith and that enthusiasm that comes from, you know, drawing into who you were as a child. undervalued, I reckon.
Oh, I think that's one of the biggest things that we could do. And I've been talking about it. My sister's building a business at the moment called Hearts of Play. And it's all organic and sensory-based learning for kids. But the core message and where it came from was she realized that we didn't have a childhood, and tapping into that inner child and the play. And if I look at the business owners and the people that are most happy, that have the best relationships and the most fun in life, it's they know how to embrace the inner child, and they look at things with childlike wonder and without the fear that what we've developed and been conditioned over the years. So if we could approach every situation with a bit of childlike wonder and how you would at that sort of stage of life, imagine what we would do differently and how much fun we can have.
Absolutely.
So I for me, it's like, okay, well, what would I do if I was a kid? Like, you don't care what people think, what you look like in your swimmers. You're like, just kid off, let's go. Like, how much more freeing is that feeling? Like,
yeah, it's different, isn't it? Yeah.
Before you get berated in the classroom and someone puts you down, you're putting your hand up because you're curious and you want to learn, and that's how that accelerates your learning. Like, what can we do to embrace more of that?
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. Common sense is not that common. The problem with common sense is it's not that common.
Oh man, the amount of quotes that I've written down as we've been going through this has been amazing.
I like that one. That one, someone said to me the other day, I was talking about the madness down here, and he goes, yeah, the problem with common sense is not that common. I'm like, yeah, I know. One of my moments where I question humanity, the faith of having humanity, I'm like, oh, shit, you just have to come back to love, don't you?
Come back to love, laughter.
Yeah. I better run.
I was going to say, this has been amazing. The time threw me because my computer's on Queensland time, but I operate on New South Wales time.
Yeah.
And so the time's flown.
Thank you so much.
This has been amazing. One last thing.
Yeah.
Where is the best place for people to connect with you?
Oh, there's so many different places. Probably the best place and a good starting point would be on Instagram, Brent Breaks Bread, or you can check out the websites around the businesses, whatever you shall seek, whatever you are looking for.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
I'll obviously make sure that we put in the show notes all of the things. So if anyone wants to get some Bell's surf wax, they can reach out. If they want to know more about Shred for Life and getting connected and things like that, then they can hook up with you. I do know that we've seeded some of your thoughts along the way, but jump on, guys, to Brent's stories on Instagram if you want to have a bit of a fire started and join the conversation.
Yeah, for sure. And if anyone wants to ask any questions, do we see, or can we ask them if they've got any questions?
If anyone's got any questions, it's a great one. On the Facebook feed, on Barrels and Business, then just jump onto the page and drop the questions in. Make sure you tag us and let's get back to them. Otherwise, like I said, jump on Brent's stories and ask him questions. We'll get this cast up in a couple of weeks as well, and just drop them in the comments. Just make sure you tag us when you do it so that we can get back to you.
Awesome.
I'm going to say ciao for now. Hope you guys have an epic day. For me, unfortunately, I think I've missed the surf, but that's all right. There's always tomorrow morning.
I'll get your wax out tomorrow.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks for that. It was really great to exchange. It was really good, a really nice conversation.
I can't believe it's taken us this long.
Yeah, I know. Everything happens in timing and for a reason. So thank you. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. See ya. You.
Hey there, barrel chasing business owners. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the show. What I would love for you to do, if you feel like you got any value or entertainment out of this episode at all, is to leave us a 5-star review and comment below so that we can share the message and impact as many business owners like you as possible. Thanks.